One question that's lighting up every headline in America: who let him walk? Sean Diddy Combs, billionaire mogul, untouchable superstar, just watched a federal jury just collapse under the weight of evidence that could have locked him away for life. They heard every witness, they saw every record, replayed every detail, but when it came to count one, racketeering conspiracy, the charge that truly mattered, they couldn't agree. Deadlocked, hung, open door. And while the cameras chased Diddy's motorcade out of that courthouse, Florida just sent a different message, one that you won't hear from mainstream reporters. Alligator Alcatraz. Now imagine this, guys. An abandoned runway deep in the Everglades turned into a massive high security detention camp, fenced by Mother Nature herself. No velvet pillows, no fancy hotel perks, just gators and pythons and nowhere to hide if you run. Built in weeks. That's right, guys. They built this thing in weeks. They paid for it with money that, under Biden, once booked luxury hotel suites for people who broke the law. Not anymore, guys. Not with President Trump in charge and Florida leading the charge on some real consequences. So here's what nobody wants to admit. This swamp fortress right here that we're talking about here, it's not just about illegal border crossers. It's a warning, guys. It's a giant sign to every insider, every billionaire, every big name fixer who thinks that the rules bend just for them. Well, while the jury wavers, the swamp holds the line. While lawyers haggle behind closed doors, Florida's message is clear. Try to slip through and see what's waiting for you on the other side of that fence. So in today's video, I want to break down how the Diddy jury cracked when it mattered the most, how Alligator Alcatraz rose almost overnight, and why some lawmakers are already planning to copy this model in other states, not just for border jumpers, but for the so-called untouchables who skate while the rest of us pay the price. By the time we're done, you guys are going to understand exactly why the real story isn't just who let him walk. It's really more like how long until the swamp drags him back. So let's go ahead and break this down exactly, okay? So after 2 months of jaw-dropping testimony, high-priced lawyers, and more sealed files than most people will ever see in a lifetime, the jury was handed one job: decide whether Sean Diddy Combs ran an organized scheme, a conspiracy that could have put him away for life. And the truth is, the signs were all there. Prosecutors brought out flights, bank wires, hotel bookings, surveillance footage, and the testimony of people who had been in these hotel suites, in those limos, behind the thick velvet curtains where the public was never supposed to peek. But when it came time to deliver on count one, racketeering conspiracy, the single charge that tied it all together, the jury blinked. Deadlocked. Hung jury. Now, if they voted guilty, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. Diddy would be facing a lifetime locked behind closed steel bars, right? But instead, the biggest door in that courthouse swung open and the cameras caught him walking right out of it. This is, guys, that same jury. Okay, this is really what they want you to forget, okay? Or what they're hoping you're going to forget. That same jury, while they stumbled on the big one, guys, they made up their minds on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So, but the one big one they couldn't make their mind up on. So what's up with that? Do you think that they were threatened? I'm just wondering, guys. Now, these are the counts that pulled back the curtain on exactly how the people around Diddy described what he did and how far he was willing to go to keep control. Now, one name hit harder than any other: Cassie Ventura. You guys may have heard of her, a woman who spent years by Diddy's side, someone who told the jury how it really worked behind closed doors. She testified for hours about nights in hotel rooms, fights behind thick doors, hush money, and even a hidden moment in a Los Angeles hotel back in 2016 that was just so disturbing that the jury begged the judge to replay it on surveillance video. So that tape didn't just shock the jury, it rattled the entire courtroom. In fact, reporters sitting in the back, they were scribbling so fast that they could barely keep up. And it wasn't just Cassie. The jury also heard from Daniel Phillip, a self-described escort who testified that he was flown across state lines more than once, booked on flights, paid thousands of dollars just to show up at secret parties. He described exactly what he saw, who was in the room, and how the money ended up changing hands. Now, if you add that to the stack of receipts, flights from New York to LA, Miami to Vegas, hotel suites under fake names, bank transfers that move money faster than questions could even be asked. By the time the closing arguments landed, prosecutors were clear. This wasn't one bad night. It was a pattern, a playbook, a setup. 11 years of hidden rules for powerful people who believe that they're never going to get caught. But tonight, guys, people are asking, how could anybody look at that paper trail, that testimony, those hours of security footage, and then watch a jury stumble on the only charge that would actually stick him behind bars for good? Because for everyday Americans, it doesn't work like that. You don't walk out of federal court free after that mountain of evidence. Like, not unless you've got billions of dollars in the bank, the best lawyers that money can buy, and connections in every back room. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why millions are furious at what just happened. Because if the system folds for him, who else does it fold for? Who's next? Here's where the story flips. Because while that courtroom spins its wheels, Florida did something that the elites never expected. They threw up fences in the swamp. They stocked it with alligators, gators, pythons, and they called it Alligator Alcatraz. And before you think that this is just some catchy name, in a minute, I'm going to share with you guys exactly how this swamp fortress was built, who's really funding this thing, and why it's already being called the line in the sand for people who think that they can just slip away from real punishment. Now, when I decided to partner with Chapter, it wasn't because they asked me. It was because I saw what they were doing for real people. They're the company that I wish existed when my own family needed Medicare help years ago. Now, take Leslie Taylor. She made one simple phone call to Chapter and ended up saving $1,000 every year. Guys, that's money that stays in her pocket for groceries, medicine, or just breathing room in the budget, right? So she's not the only one. Look at Nancy. Nancy is 78 years old and lives month to month like many people do. She said, Chapter just saved me $600 a year. I pay $1,500 every month in rent. That savings may let me stay in my home. Now, guys, this ain't hype. This is exactly why I stand with Chapter, so that you don't have to feel alone or confused ever again. So give our friends at Chapter a call right now and see how much money you can save on your Medicaid with Chapter. Phone number is 909-563-8279, or better yet, hit the link in the pinned comment down below. Go to askchapter.org/Ron. And guys, if they did this for Leslie and for Nancy, they might be able to do it for you too. So let's get clear on why this partial verdict is hitting so hard for the people who are watching at home, okay? So if you're an average American, you already know exactly how this usually goes. You break the law, you pay the price. But when you're rich, famous, or powerful enough to fill a courtroom with the best suits that money can buy, suddenly there's one loophole left open. Just enough to slip through it. Now, this is exactly what this hung jury on the racketeering court is. A single break. And it's a big one, because that racketeering conspiracy was the backbone. It was the piece that linked all the flights, all the hush payments, and the hidden hotel room moments into this one organized plan. Now, without it, though, the rest still matters, but it doesn't stick the same way. You see what I'm saying here? So if the main charge fails, the time behind bars can shrink. Deals get cut, fines get paid, reputations get cleaned up, and people move on like nothing ever even happened. Is that fair to you guys? Now, this is the pattern that's really got people fired up tonight, because what we just saw is really the exact double standard that President Donald Trump promised that he would smash. He said no more treatment for insiders who think that the rules were written for everyone else except for them, right? And let's be clear, guys. President Trump's administration didn't just talk about fixing loopholes, they did something about it. And that something is about as swampy as brilliant. Because while this jury gets dragged on for another 13 hours, Florida's answer was rather simple. Build a fortress that they can't walk away from and put it right in the middle of nowhere. And this is exactly what they did. Alligator Alcatraz isn't just a catchy nickname. It's a real place, a massive high security detention center that's sitting on abandoned airstrip deep inside the Florida Everglades. Now, Governor Ron DeSantis, he got the green light. Trump's DHS fast-tracked the permits, and while other states waste years tangled in red tape, Florida turned a forgotten runway into an ironclad holding ground in weeks. Now, instead of wasting taxpayer money on luxury hotels, which, let's not forget, the Biden White House burned through by basically housing people who crossed illegally into 5-star suites, President Trump's team flipped that money to build real security. No fancy rooms, no room service, just swamp, barbed wire, floodlights, and the very best security walls that nature never made. So you got gators, pythons, and miles of wild water on every side. So if you try to run, good luck explaining to Mother Nature and the alligators and the pythons why you're splashing through the Everglades in the middle of the night. Probably not a good look for anyone in that. So what's the point? The point is, guys, when you can't trust the courts to lock up the worst of the worst, you build a fortress that will, because loopholes don't work when there's nowhere to run. So here's where the story jumps from one swamp fortress in Florida to something way bigger, because Alligator Alcatraz, it's not just a one-off experiment. It's part of a plan that President Trump promised years ago. And now he's delivering it faster than anybody ever thought possible. So back when Biden was still signing checks for hotel stays and luxury buses, Trump's team was already laying the groundwork to expand ICE detention to 100,000 security beds nationwide. Now, that's not just numbers on a spreadsheet. That's boots on the ground, fences up, planes fueled and ready to fly people out to wherever they need to go back to. And Alligator Alcatraz, this is the new symbol of how that's going to work. Fast build, zero excuses, and real consequences. So if you break the law, you don't get a penthouse suite. You get dropped in the swamp with gators for guards. So I don't think anybody's really going to want that. So that's probably going to reduce those numbers of people who are breaking the law. And check this out, guys. The contrast really couldn't be any clearer. Under the old system, big city mayors handed out hotel keys like candy. 5-star rooms, meals, expense cards, the works. Look at New York, right? You see what I'm saying here, right? All paid for by taxpayers who barely get a vacation themselves. Under Trump, that money gets repurposed. No more silk sheets, no more fancy pillows. Instead, steel gates, trailers, tents, and the Florida Everglades. But here's where it really hits home. It's not just about the border jumpers, guys. It's not just about illegal crossings. It's about sending a message to the rich and powerful too. Because Diddy's partial walk, this weird moment where a billionaire can just kind of slide through a loophole that would bury any ordinary American, that's the real reason why people want this swamp fortress idea to grow. Think about it. If the courtroom stalls, if the lawyers twist the law into knots, then what happens then, right? What if there were no more back doors for people who think that they're untouchable? So if the court stalls, and I think, to be honest with you guys, I really do think that President Trump's message is rather simple. If the court stalls, the swamp doesn't. Right? If they find a loophole, we slam it shut. If you think that you're too rich, too connected, too famous to face consequences, think again. Because today, while Diddy's team is out here celebrating that hung jury, the American people are celebrating something else. A wall of swamp and gators that says, try it, run, see how far you get. All right. So let's talk about what's really got some people kind of like wringing their hands about Alligator Alcatraz, right? So because whenever you build something that's so bold like this, right? Something that really flips the script this fast, you got to get critics. Environmental groups are already sounding the alarms about the Everglades. They're worried about the gators, the pythons, the water, the impact on the wetlands. These people have nothing else to do. And look, it's a fair point to some extent. The Florida Everglades are wild, they're delicate land, but here's what Florida's leaders said aloud and really just loud and clear. Public safety comes first. Governor Ron DeSantis, he didn't wait around for red tape. He used emergency authority backed by President Trump's DHS to greenlight this build in record time because the risk to everyday Americans and families from dangerous repeat offenders and illegal criminals, it really does outweigh the risk of a few bureaucrats complaining about some paperwork. People forget, Florida has a long history of using nature to its advantage. If the swamp is already a fortress, why waste billions of dollars on concrete walls when Mother Nature does half the job for free, right? And guess what, guys? Most Floridians love it. Regular folks, they're not out here chanting about endangered snakes or anything like that. They're cheering that finally there's a place criminals can't just slip away from. But here's the part that the media doesn't want you to hear. Florida might be just the beginning. So right now, insiders are saying Texas and Arizona are studying the blueprint for their own natural fortress sites, remote desert hold sites, canyon facilities, even repurposed abandoned mining operations that make escape impossible. And it's not just about immigration. Lawmakers, yes, even a few brave ones in DC, they're floating the idea that maybe it's time to expand these swamp fortress style prisons for people who think that they're untouchable. Now, the big idea, if a billionaire or some kind of a shady insider tries to dodge real punishment through a loophole, maybe there shouldn't be a fancy minimum security country club prison waiting for them. Maybe there's a trailer and a swamp instead. Sound extreme? Maybe. But after watching what just happened in that courtroom, can you really say that it doesn't make sense, guys? And here's a twist. You can bet that the elites hate this idea because for the first time in a long time, the walls are not just for the powerless. They're for the powerful as well. So I want you to ask yourself, is this really crazy, or is this exactly what America needs right now? A clear message that if you break the rules, the swamp will keep you in check when the courts won't. So, all right, guys. So now I think you're seeing the full picture. A billionaire walks halfway free on a technicality. A jury cracks under pressure when the evidence basically slams the door shut on him. And while the courtroom plays its game, Florida built a swamp fortress to make sure that nobody slips through the cracks again. Now, this is not about one man with deep pockets and a team of lawyers who know how to tie the system in knots. This is about every insider who thinks that loopholes are designed just for them, while everyday Americans just get the full force of the law, no excuses. President Trump and Governor Ron DeSantis made it very clear, if the system won't hold the line, the swamp will. No more luxury hotel suites, no more sweetheart deals, no more back doors. And so now the question is, do we build more? Should this model stay in Florida, or should every state start thinking about justice for the forgotten and look at Alligator Alcatraz and say, hey, yep, that's the line. That's how you shut the door for good. So I want you to tell me this right now, guys, in the comments down below. Should Diddy walk? Real quick. I got to hear from you guys. I cannot wait to see what you guys start putting in the comments. Should more swamp fortresses like Alligator Alcatraz be built? Not just for border jumpers, but for the elites who think that the rules do not apply to them? And should the rich face the same consequences the rest of us would never be able to dodge? Let me know where you guys stand on this, because if you don't speak up, you know exactly what happens, right? The insiders just keep on laughing. The cameras shut off, the headlines fade, and the same old game just keeps on rolling. So not this time, guys. Not if we make a lot of noise. Not if we demand the loopholes close for good. So drop your comment, share this video, tell a friend who still thinks that the old system works fine, because tonight proves that it does not. And remember this, guys, when the courts stall, the swamp won't. And when the lawyers stall, the people lead. And under President Donald Trump, that line in the sand just got a whole lot wider, and it's crawling with gators. So anyway, I'm glad you guys stuck with me on this one. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe for the truth that you will not find anywhere. So make sure you guys keep your eyes on Florida, because if Diddy thinks that he's walking away clean, I don't know. He's got another thing coming. We'll see you next time.